when you were just talking about the pressure of the playoffs. What impressed me the most was James Harden knows what people have been saying about him. He knows that he has struggled at key moments in his playoffs in the past, and then he comes out and goes 4 for 14 in the first half. Instead of letting that get to him mentally, he comes out in the third quarter and has one for the ages. That was one of the things that most impressed me. And when you have two Hall of Fame point guards in their prime on the same team, and they're both playing well, this is why they could win the title. They combined, just Harden and Chris Paul combined for 37 points in the third quarter. Throw in the one assist, believe it or not, they only had one assist between them. It was a three-pointer. They produced 40 points by themselves.
Crazy.
In the third quarter. So if those two play well together, then I think Golden State is the best team when healthy. But if those two play well together, they could beat them.
That's after 6 mediocre halves of basketball. We give them credit as being the best basketball team in the league throughout the season, but in the first 6 halves, the first 3 games, and this half.
Seven mediocre halves.
7 halves. Just mediocre. D'Antonio, the organization, knew they had to get back to the way they played, and that's where they did in the third quarter. It's very, very rare that you're going to see a player like Harden start off so slow. I mean, he was ice cold and catch fire the way he did. Now, you might see that in the first quarter. You might see a combination of first and second quarter, but not after playing a bad first half. You don't see that happen in the third quarter. So I think it's monumental. I think that when they're crowned champion, when they lift the trophy, they will look back. Yes, I got them. I had them winning it before.
Now, how much of that is based? So none of that's based on Steph.
Back to this moment.
None of that's based on Steph being injured.
No, it had nothing to do with it. Even going into the playoffs, before I thought that Houston was the best team. And when they got home court advantage, I thought that was more important for them than it was for Golden State. So when they look back on it, because the organization knows they had not played great in these first 3 games, and be able to catch fire in the third quarter, I believe it will be significant.
This is one of the things I just love about sports, is the 82 games. It seems like the season's too long. Does this game really matter? It comes down to moments. And the beginning of the third quarter for this Rockets franchise, for my pal Daryl Morey, who has spent the bulk of his adult life building towards this moment, it was coming down to the third quarter. For Mike D'Antoni, and how people view him. Is he just a regular season coach? What you said about James Harden. CP3 knows he's going to the Hall of Fame. He also knows he's never been to the conference finals. Yeah. You're only up 2-1 in the series. You're only up 1 point at halftime. You're not playing that well in this game in what is one of the biggest games this city has hosted in 15 years. And you put up 50? You put up the most points any team's put up in a playoff quarter in 55 years. And here's why. Go ahead, Jenna.
No, and this is coming off Mike D'Antoni talking about how the team didn't have the right rhythm in the game before. And maybe they weren't playing with the right, he used the word spirit. So to respond like this when the first half of the game was an okay game, and to turn it on, I think it says it goes to your point.
And this is why, Chris, I'm on the same page. The Rockets are the favorites to win the title. If I had to pick a team to win the title, I'd pick them. They're up 3-1 against a team that I perceive to be better than most 8 seeds are. Because Jimmy Butler coming back from the injury makes them better than most 8 seeds.
Yes, that's a good point.
Harden was doing it against Butler, too. That's one of the best defenders in the league.
They're doing it with Gordon, Ariza, and P.J. Tucker shooting a combined 31% from the field. Just visually, I would say, I don't think Harden and Chris Paul have been at their A level, but they're combining for 51 points a game on 46% shooting. So I feel like they're doing this, and they can play better than they're playing, and they dodged a bullet. P.J. Tucker, I thought he blew out his knee. Yeah. He was back in that quarter. Mbah Mute's coming back. Like, they're also, it's no coincidence here, they're also the healthiest team in the West, and that helps.
So how much for you? See, I still, and we don't know what Steph's going to be. I mean, I think they could lose to New Orleans if he's not himself. If he misses the first 2 games, comes back 80%, 70%, whatever, I think New Orleans could get them. But if he's healthy and he's Steph, I mean, that's going to be a heck of a series with the Rockets. But I would go with Golden State.
Here's the thing. You're not supposed to be healthy after three straight finals, after 3 straight 100-game seasons. There's the reason. There's a reason teams don't make
But he hasn't been healthy.
I'm talking about the team as a whole. I'm talking about the Warriors as a whole. This whole, like, if they were healthy, there's a reason teams don't make 4 straight finals. There's a reason Shaq and Kobe never did it. There's a reason MJ never did it. There's a reason if you don't have LeBron James and it happened in 30 years. Well, okay, yeah, because guess what? It wears on you. Whether it's through injury or mental fatigue, it wears on you. Like, the Rockets are better than them. That doesn't mean guarantee they can win and bad luck can happen. The Rockets are flatly better than Golden State right now. And for the first time all playoffs, to me, they played like it in that third quarter last night.
Yeah, but like Chris said, though, we can't evaluate Golden State without Steph. Like, we can't say, they have been the best basketball team that we have seen in a 4-year in the history of basketball. So him saying Steph being healthy, you have to try to bake that into the equation because what we've seen with them with Steph being healthy.
But when you're picking the Rockets, that's even if Steph comes back healthy, right? You still think the Rockets are the slightly
I respect Chris, but I disagree with him.
Yeah, okay. I just want to make sure the audience understood.
Look, the Rockets are great. They look phenomenal, but I don't think that second round series is going to be a cakewalk.
For either one of them.
Utah was 29-6. Since January 22nd.
Yeah.
29-6. Now, they were 0-4 against the Rockets, but only one of those games was after Utah got it going.
Mm-hmm. After Gobert came
in. And they protect the rim, so now they're not going to be able to stop those three-pointers. Right. But they can protect that rim.
Also, the other thing with the Donovan Mitchell interview after him and Ricky Rubio, I'm worrying about them being so young. There was a little celebration there.
Yes.
And that's only 3-1. So you talking about, man, if they get through this series, this is their NBA championship.
But if there's ever...
They got off of Gordon Hayward.
Last time we saw a guy celebrate 3-1, Tracy McGrady.
Oh, yeah.
Never ended up winning. He lost 19 straight games after that.
But if there is a year where experience seems to be chucked out the window because it doesn't matter, it would be this year. Between what Utah's doing and what the Sixers are doing, a lot of these young players on young teams are playing very well.
It was the greatest offensive quarter of playoff basketball the league's seen in modern era. I mean, that's not even my opinion. That's just a fact. The only other team to score more than that was the 62 Lakers. This was the first time in a playoff game a team has beaten a team by at least 30 points in a quarter since the 86 Celtics, widely considered one of the 5 greatest teams ever. And they won because of their defense that quarter. They won 36-6. Right. The Rockets won 50-20. The score at halftime was 50-49.
1 point.
They had scored 50 points in the first half. That's amazing for an all-star game. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was just an unending avalanche of high-efficiency shots going in, and it came, CC, in their most important quarter of the season to that point.
At that point, they were not shooting the ball well. It's one of the greatest displays of basketball I've seen in 12 minutes. There's a couple different talking points. You can either talk about James Harden outscoring the Timberwolves 22-20, or you can just talk about the rest of the team outscoring the Timberwolves, the 28 that they scored if they were a 4-man team. So it was remarkable. Also, Harden was hot, but he was still unselfish. It's hard to get 22 points and still be unselfish. I believe that they'll look back on this quarter and this be the quarter, because it's the best quarter that they've played in the 4-game series. This will be the quarter that they went on their championship run.
Listen, the Rockets were the best team in the NBA all year long. And to be totally candid, through 14 quarters of playoff basketball, 3.5 games, they looked far from it.
Yes.
Through 3 games, the Pelicans looked better. The Warriors looked better. You could argue Philly looked better. The Rockets looked shaky even in their wins. And early in this game, James Harden starts out 0 for 7.
Yeah, P.J. Tucker goes down with a knee injury. I said, okay, here we go.
Right?
This begins the avalanche of injuries.
Absolutely. And Tucker's knee injury was a weird one. It looked really scary, and then he was back in the game 10 minutes later. Like, I thought he was done definitely for the game, maybe for the season. He ended up being, he came back, pardon me, so of course he'll be back. But what they did in the third quarter, I just want the audience to understand, when I say it's the most important quarter of their season, 1-point game at halftime. If they lose this game, it's a best of 3 for their season against an 8 seed in what would have been a I mean, Chris Paul's a pending free agent. You would look at the head. All these things sound outrageous when you win 65 games. But if you win 65 games and you don't get out of the first round, and there are already questions about your coach, already questions about James Harden in the playoffs.
Don't forget the ghost of the past.
Right. Already questions about Chris Paul. If they lose in the first round, everyone is thinking, okay.
Even if they go 6 or 7 games, that's like losing because they're underachievers in the playoffs. The coach said, it wouldn't make a difference what we did in the playoffs after winning 65 games. So those things will begin the pressure will begin to mount.
So that's what was on the line going into this quarter. It's the most pressure-packed quarter this version of these players, this year's team, has ever played together. The most important quarter you've played all year long. And you put a 50 ball on them? Like, obviously scoring 50 in a quarter is wildly impressive no matter what. But you do it in the second quarter of a game in a series, you're up 3 games to nothing. It's one thing.
Not when you've got a 1-point lead at halftime, knowing what the knock on you is that you succumb to the pressure in the playoffs that experiences the problem, and you put 50 points up, and both your stars score. They've had games where one scored, the other one scored. Chris Paul plays great, James Harden plays great, and you don't know if they can find a game where they both show up, and they both showed up. They put together a complete game, and they play great.
And you got to keep your eyes on what else is going on in your conference. The Pelicans sitting at home chilling. They didn't already swept Portland. Golden State getting ready to get the gentleman sweep with the Spurs. Like, you need to keep an eye because it's not what this series would do. It's the next round, the totality of round number 3, and then ultimately a month from now when you're in the NBA Finals. So it was important to get that commanding 3-1 lead.
And the other part of it is, and we alluded to it with the P.J. Tucker near injury or near serious injury, is luck matters on this. And Luc Richard Mbah a Moute earlier this season dislocated his shoulder and missed a month plus. At the very end of the regular season, I think it was game 81, might have been game 82, he looked like he did the same thing. And it's like, oh, well, he's going to be out for at least the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. He gave some quotes saying, not nearly as bad as the previous one. I think I'm going to be back around round 2. So there's a dodged bullet, one dodged bullet. P.J. Tucker was helped their defensive identity. It looked like he blew out his knee. He's back on the court 10 minutes later. There's another dodged bullet. There is not a team in the playoffs on either side of the bracket aside from Philly that is as healthy as Houston right now. So it's not surprising those are the 2 teams right now you probably feel the best about.
Right.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.